Hey guys, so ambulances and hearses. Where's the connection? Ambulance and EMS history. So according to Ripley's, ambulance services became common after the Civil War, and funeral home directors were some of the first to get in on the gig. In the early days, the life-saving vehicles were powered by horses and featured sparse equipment, usually a stretcher, blanket, some whiskey to numb the pain, right? In the beginning, ambulance services were run by the local funeral homes. The hearse was used to transport patients to the hospital. The funeral home employees had very little first aid training, but following World War II, rescue squads and ambulance services began to emerge. So in 1966, a half of the country's ambulances were provided by morticians. That was simply the best practical option, since hearses could accommodate a person on a stretcher, were the perfect length. Volunteer crews drove people to the hospital in emergencies. It worked. So either way, most crews didn't have training or up-to-date knowledge of trauma care. They took care of the dead. Funeral homes were the first to provide ambulances, though. These vehicles were known as combination cars and were commonly used in rural areas, small towns. They had flashing lights, sirens, a rotating roof, beacon that could flash red, yellow, whatever color for an emergency. A hole in the roof for a beacon that could be bolted on and plugged into the driver's compartment. It could go on, come off, to a radio to call, long before cell phones, gurneys or caskets, foldable seats, all these things that could accommodate. They had a little cabinet for some first aid supplies. It changed drastically in 1966 after Congress passed the Highway Safety Act, which set regulations on ambulance design and emergency medical care. New standards on medical training, equipment, vehicles. It was hard for funeral homes to keep up with that. So ambulance services also became very costly. This forced funeral directors to give up the ambulance side of their business. Hospitals, fire departments, volunteers, they all started up and took up all the slack that the funeral home had kind of left. Early 70s, ambulances transformed from what they were back in the day, looking kind of like a hearse, into what they look like now. After Vietnam, they expanded their trauma care. These trained combat people came home and they could save lives on the spot. So they became the ones that were doing the responding. A little bit about hearses and ambulances.